Forensic nursing is a fairly new and unique specialty that incorporates nursing, forensic science, and the justice system. Forensic nurses have a significant role outside of the hospital or medical setting. They advocate for healthcare policy changes and strive to help those affected by violent crime. They work closely with law enforcement and the legal system. Forensic nurses have a significant role in the criminal justice system, providing clinical expertise, education, and teaching about the medical legal evaluation of patients affected by violent crime. In the 1970s, there were a few ER nurses that started to notice the need for specialized care for patients they saw in the emergency room that presented after being sexually assaulted. The first sexual assault nurse examiners, or SANE nurses, came from three different states: Texas, Tennessee, and Minnesota. These small programs recognize SANEs as nurses or nurse practitioners who received specialized training to care for patients who had experienced sexual assault and were trained to collect evidence and testify in court. And then in 1992, a small group of mostly SANE nurses from the US and Canada came together to form the IAFN, or the International Association of Forensic Nurses. And the goal was to create a nursing organization that specialized in caring for and treating victims and perpetrators of violent crime. What began as a small group of 72 nurses has now grown to over 6,000 members as of December of 2022, and there are 30 chapters of the IAFN around the world. It was not until 1995 that the ANA, or American Nurses Association, recognized that forensic nursing is a formal nursing specialty. There are many different specialties within forensic nursing, including SANE nurses, sexual assault nurse examiners, FNEs, forensic nurse examiners, death investigators, nurse coroners, corrections nurses, legal nurse consultants, nurse attorneys, and there are also nurses that specialize in human trafficking, elder abuse, child abuse, and forensic psychiatric nurses. Forensic nursing is a quickly growing field to meet the public health needs. The goal of this podcast is to introduce you to some of the different roles within forensic nursing. This episode today will be one of several episodes highlighting different specialties within forensic nursing.
So I have Greg Roution here today. Thank you for being here today. You have several roles. Can you introduce yourself and explain your different roles that you do?
I'm Greg Routon. I work for Norton Healthcare out of Louisville, Kentucky. We have a multi-hospital system. We have 7 hospitals at this point in time. Our newest one was over in Madison, Indiana, but we haven't acquired it totally yet. But I am the director of forensics and life support training for our system, which include about 18,000, almost 19,000 people. And out of that, I've got over half in the American Red Cross life support training. But I'm also the director of forensics, so I'm the one that goes out and does all the rape exams throughout all of our facilities, which is right now at 6 hospitals. And sometimes every once in a while into a physician's office if I get a phone call if they don't want to come into the hospital themselves. We have over 255 physician offices in our area, and we cover Indiana, Kentucky, and Tennessee. Now, I don't go to Tennessee, and I don't go down in Western Kentucky, but we cover that much area. I started this program probably 13 years ago for the system, but I've been a SANE nurse since 2000, and I've been active 15 years in a pediatric hospital between the ICU and the ER, and then as a staff nurse, as a staff educator, as an assistant nurse manager, and then took this role about 13 years ago to become the director of forensics for our system to build a SANE program, which has had its struggles. Unfortunately, I'm still by myself because it's not a money-making business. So I'm on call 24/7. I used to be able to make every single call, but it's got to the point where we had to bring in another organization. We have the University of Louisville in our area, and we have Baptist Health. So University of Louisville has its own SANE program, so those people are my backup when I can't get to it. And mainly it's the nights they come in, because at nighttime, weekends, I'm the coroner for Floyd County, Indiana. So that's where I spend most of my time doing coroner work and on call for them. So I can't leave the county when I'm on call for them. So I got elected 2 years ago, and I was on as a deputy coroner a year before that. So excuse me, I got another 2 years left on this term, then I'll probably try it again and we'll see what happens.
Wow.
Living forensics and death forensics are really not that much difference, except you got somebody breathing and somebody dead. But the process of trying to find the information out is the same. That's what I enjoy about it. Also, as a nurse, being a coroner, if you tell me what was going on with the last couple of weeks of your life, I can usually tell you why he died. And I've got one other nurse, and I've got a bunch of morticians that work for me, and one ex-firefighter. So I got a pretty good crew. So
Yeah.
we stay busy.
Yeah,
We stay busy.
for sure. Wow. Well,
Yeah.
I saw it's National Coroner and Medical Death
Yeah.
Investigator Week, so happy Coroner Week.
Thank you. Thank you.
Wow, that's a lot of work for just one person.
It's okay, really. People say, when do you sleep? And I said, I sleep. It's just, it's the problem with the same nurse that I've always found is you can't schedule your patients.
Right. Right.
And a lot of people say, can I come and follow you? And number one rule is no, you cannot follow.
Yeah.
Because especially with me being a male, which a lot of people are like, oh, you're a same nurse? Oh. And like, trust me, I would love to never go see another exam and tell everybody else where to go.
Okay.
But it can't happen because I don't have the people that can do it.
Oh.
And I mean, it's just, they're not there. I've had a couple and they burnt out real quick. And I'm like, what I tell you? Because I'm not leaving my patient population, because I did it because of pediatrics is what I did it for. Okay. Like I told you before, Kentucky is one of 3 states that has its own separate SANE licensures. So we now have pediatric adolescent license and an adult adolescent license, and I'm certified in both. The IFN has a SANE A and a SANE P, but our state has a separate license, just like an RN license. They have a SANE license. So,
so
yeah,
what's the process to get the SANE license in your state?
Okay, so when I first did it, you had to go to a 40-hour didactic class.
Sure.
Then you had to do an additional 60 hours of hands-on training, which was 4 hours right along with the police department, 4 hours with the crime victims advocacy, 10 hours of mock history taking exam techniques, 28 hours of speculum insertions, and 18 hours in a courtroom.
Wow.
So it's changed a little bit. Kentucky now recognizes the IFN organization online program. Then you have to turn around and do the Kentucky part of it, Kentucky law, and then do your hands-on, find somebody to precept you through to get the hands-on. The biggest problem we've had is people getting into the speculum exams. So a lot of my nurses have worked in the ER, and I just say, hey, go in there and say, hey, I'm here tonight. I want every pelvic.
Yeah.
Every pelvic, because all you've got to get used to is inserting that speculum and learning your anatomy down there, because everybody's different.
Right.
Because I don't call doctors in unless there's something weird. It's like, you can see me. Other than that, it's just me in there, me with somebody else in there with me. Right. But that's been our biggest issue of people getting in to do that, because I tell us that talk to your GYN. Go in there and explain to them what you're doing. If you're working in ER, just tell the docs, hey, this is what I'm doing. Greg's my mentor. And they all know me. All my doctors know me. So once they Greg's my mentor, know that, okay, what does he want? He wants me to become a SANE nurse. So it helps them out and helps me out also. That's the biggest thing that we've had problem with. The problem with the pediatric adolescent, 3 years ago, we tried to do this switch over, and it's taken 3 years, and they just are now almost to the point to do the didactic and then the hand. You can do the didactic through the IFN or in person. We have a couple places around here that do. Frankfurt and one in Louisville will do one. And then you got to get your hands on. And we're Norton Children's Hospital is the only pediatric hospital in this area.
Oh, okay.
Total pediatric hospital. We have another 24-hour pediatric ER out on the west end, or no, east end. And then we have another one of our hospitals has adult and children. Oh, okay. So they have a pediatric ER and an adult ER with pediatric inpatients also. So we have 3 different places we can go to do these at. But like I said, you don't know when they're going to come in. So it's kind of hard for people to get their hands on. And my biggest problem with the pediatric one was I said, if you're going to do it, you need to go in there and stay because they are not adult.
Right.
They're not an adult. And I've had some pushback on that. And I said, well, to me, I won't sign anybody off until you've spent time in there because you could go all day and not have a call. I can
Right.
go all week and not have a call for an adult.
Right.
Or I can have 4 in 3 hours, which I've
Yep.
had before.
Exactly.
So you never know. It's kind of like, oh, my day just went to shits and S and G's, and I'm like, what am I going to do now? So you got to
Exactly.
wait a minute because I'm in the middle of an exam.
Yeah.
So how long have you been a same nurse?
I've been a same nurse for oh no, wait, sorry, no, I lied, I forgot. I got my dates screwed up. I've been a nurse since '98. I've only been a same nurse since 2004.
Okay.
So about 18 years. So
Now,
for a while.
do you still practice?
I do adolescent and pediatric
Okay.
out of a
What state are
hospital.
you in?
I'm out of Washington State.
Okay. Well, you way up north then.
Yeah, I
Northern-
am.
Northwest, so
Yeah.
up over to Alaska. So okay, so it's not a separate license up there, or what is that?
It's not. It's just, from your RN license, and then, of course, you can get your certification through the IAFN. But we just really all we require is the didactic training, and then the, whatever your hospital require or wherever you work requires for orientation, getting your practical hours in for for training. Yeah, so definitely a different process.
Yeah. Is it your board of nursing or your hospital rules?
So generally it's the hospital rules, whoever hires you, whatever they require for training. So, and then of course you just have to hold your state licensure.
Yeah, because I'm in a compact state, so
Oh, right.
yes, I live in Indiana, so I had to declare them, and Kentucky just accepted my compact license 3 years ago. So I have always had dual license for all these years, 2 states.
Wow.
So that's a pain in the butt, but
Yeah.
Kentucky and Indiana sometimes don't want to talk to each other.
Oh, really?
When I had to renew my sane license, it's kind of like, guys, you're not talking to each other.
Oh.
So, but yeah, because I think I did my sane when I took a class in Texas.
Okay. Yeah.
Mississippi, Kentucky, Indiana, Ohio. Where else? Another state somewhere, I can't remember. It was more out west. But I like going out and seeing what other people do, and most of it's the same.
Yeah.
Every once in a while, you'll find something you kind of look your head a little different, but most times everything's the same.
Yeah.
Across the board.
Interesting. Yeah. Really interesting. How did you end up doing this kind of work?
That's what everybody asks me.
I'm always curious.
I will say it started back in the late 70s as a paramedic working with child abuse victims.
Okay.
That's where it started at. And then I worked as a paramedic EMT up until I left for the service, and then worked as a paramedic in about 6 different stations where I was stationed at in the military, just to have something else to do other than what I was doing, and kept along working with the abuse people. And then when I got out of the military, well, I really wasn't out, I went to part-time. I got into, as combat medic, I got kind of interested into some domestic violence, and it just went from there.
Wow.
So, and I started out in the pediatric hospital for the first 15 years doing child abuse, word into sexual assault.
Wow.
And doing a lot of teaching with the doctors on how to do things correctly.
Yeah. I think, definitely a lot of our job is education, which I really enjoy. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I'm considered a system educator now, but I'm the director of the forensics and life support trainings. That's the 2 main things that I do here at the hospital.
Yeah, that's a lot of that's a big job.
It keeps me busy. That's all I gotta say.
Yeah, for sure. So like how many patients do you see, like sane patients in you cover a whole lot of area.
Well, I can tell you that, see that little doorway behind me there, I probably have about 700 kits back there of non-reported patients.
Okay.
That's the non-reports. And
Yeah.
we all know non-reports way outweigh the reported ones.
Right.
So I would probably say at least 1,200 I've done over the last 20 some years.
Wow. Yeah.
Probably more than that.
Yeah.
I
Sure.
didn't start keeping records until 2012, 2013 when I took over here.
Yeah.
We actually had a case come back from 2005, but unfortunately, our medical records, after 10 years, they purged the system,
Oh,
and we just got a DNA hit on
okay.
one from 2005,
Oh,
and we don't have anything.
wow.
It was a pediatric patient too.
Oh gosh. Yeah,
So it's sad.
it is that.
It's and
Yeah.
I went to them, don't purge these patients. Well, it's just an automatic purge, and I'm like,
Yeah, this is so different. Yeah.
it's going to bite you in your butt, and this one is probably going to bite them in the butt.
Wow. Yeah, it's amazing. I mean, how far technology has come. I mean, just since I've been doing this, yeah, going back and looking at the cold cases and, they're, testing old kits and yeah, it's pretty amazing.
Yeah, back here, do you remember? It's been about 6, 8 years back when they had that thing about all the kits being found.
Oh, yes. Uh-huh.
Remember that?
Yeah.
We got over, I think, 5,200 found here in Louisville alone.
Really? Wow.
That was never turned into the state crime lab. These I'm not allowed to turn in because the patients did not want them.
Right, right. Yeah.
And I told them, I said, they wanted them. I said, I cannot give them to you because legally I'm bound by the patients, what they said no.
Yeah.
But I've never destroyed one either.
Yeah.
Well, I have to because I'm running out of the room in there because actually I'm way out of over space now.
Well, that's what I was thinking, the space.
Yeah, well, I have 3 locked doors. So a locked door here, a locked door there, and then everything's locked in cabinets. But I tell them, I'm like, yeah, I don't collect clothing unless you report.
Yeah.
I don't collect clothing no more, period. It's just kits and kits and kits. So it's interesting.
Yeah. Interesting.
What else you got? I'm sorry, my phone's all over the place. So I'm in a meeting.
Well, I mean, I just wanted to talk to you more about being a male sane nurse, since, nursing in general, and especially the sane field has been traditionally very female dominated. And I know that's changing a lot. I actually met, as I've been talking to nurses around the country, I've talked to several male sane nurses, and I know I met a male sane nurse from Alaska at a training this summer, and he said that his whole team is men, but well, that makes sense in Alaska, and he was surprised that he was in this room full of all female sane nurses. He's like, oh, so it's really interesting. I know I found a statistic. I don't know how accurate it is, but it said that 10% of forensic nurses in the US are male. I have no idea how accurate that is, but yeah, that seems kind of high to me. I don't know.
Yeah, I have met very few sane nurses in my career. The most time I meet them is at the conferences, the IFN conferences is when I meet them.
Yeah.
When I got my license back in 2000, I'm number 106 for the state of Kentucky. We had very few back then. And right now, we probably only have rough numbers. They told me it was last fall, probably about 400 active, 375 to 400 active in the state of Kentucky. And that could even be lower than that at times. I've had a lot of people come to me and say, why are you doing this? And I said, well, number one, child abuse started it out. And number two, there's not enough of us.
Absolutely.
And yes, I've had a few issues here and there, but my biggest issue is from my peers. I've never really had a patient issue. Once I tell them what I'm going to do and talk to them a little bit, they're like, oh, that's it. And I'm like, yeah. And it's all about you. It's not about me. It's not about the hospital. You tell me when you want me to stop, I stop.
Yeah, exactly.
My biggest issue in my whole career has been my peers. Uh, the physicians love me because they don't have to do it, number one.
Exactly.
But one of my first rules when I started being my boss, and I told her, I said, look, I said, anytime one of us goes in the room, it was just the two of us because I trained her. I said, we go in with somebody else. I'm never, ever alone. You know, if I was taking care of you on a normal day, it'd be you and me all day long. But when it comes to this patient population, I'm never alone.
Right. Sure.
And I've shocked a few people with the way the people that know me, I'm totally different when I walk into one of these rooms.
Sure.
And then after we come out, they say, Greg, you're not, that wasn't like you. And I'm like, well, you have to turn a different faucet on.
Right.
Because number one, the first thing is bias.
Mm-hmm.
No matter what comes out of their mouth, you just got to go, okay.
Right.
And we know the reasons we know the reason people become safe nurses. Number one, they've been a victim, or number two, they have somebody real close to them as a victim. And I will ask my ladies that I've worked with, I said, which one are you? Because I really need to know when you walk in that room, are you going to fall apart or are you going to be good? And I've had 3 of them had to walk out of the rooms because they were prior victims themselves and they weren't ready.
Right.
And if you've been in it this long, you know when some people talk about it, it helps them out.
Yeah.
I spoke to a lady here. It was actually at the last IFN conference. She said it was 56 years ago I was raped, and I still get terrified every time I think about it.
Wow. Yeah.
That's a norm. It's going to be there. It's not going to go away. I tell people, it's like, I can't do a thing about you being assaulted, but I can help you forward.
Right.
And that's what I tell them. I said, from this way backwards, I can't deal that. I can't do anything about that, but I can go here, make you feel better.
Right.
And I've had people cry. I've had people act like it's a normal everyday thing. One word answers, be mad and gruff about the whole thing. I actually had 2 of them hit on me one time. And my tech was just like, she was standing behind the patient, she goes, Greg, we got done with it. I said, how do you think? Well, Greg, she's hitting on you. I said, no, she wasn't. She was coping.
Exactly.
That's their coping mechanism.
Right.
And I looked at her and I said, nah. And I bluntly tell her, I said, nah, you don't want this old man. And the next day she called me. She goes, I really got to apologize. And I said, no, you don't. She goes, well, I was hitting on you. I said, no, you were coping.
Right.
You've got to understand, everybody goes through that process differently.
Right.
I've actually taken care of 7 of my nurses. That's 3 of them are really good friends of mine. And they called me in personally at home and say, hey, I need you. And I'm like, what for? And I had no idea. And they're like, I need you. And I was like, why? I'm off. No, you're not. Yes, in here. And then when I get here, I find out what's going on. So to me, it's a privilege to have somebody call me and say, hey, I need you.
Yeah.
To me, especially my coworkers, because I tell them, I said, you really, I'll find somebody else. No.
Wow.
And I had one flat out says, no, I want nobody but you. And I actually worked with her probably for 5 years in the PICU. She's a nurse practitioner now. And she got assaulted. And I get the phone call saying, hey, Greg, you've been requested. And I'm like, who? And they told me, what she wants. She goes, she's been an assault victim. I was like, oh.
Oh, gosh.
I always try to defer them to somebody else. I'll hold their hand and let somebody else do the exam. But I said, no. To me, that's an honor.
It is. Wow.
Because I think my youngest I've dealt with has been 3 months, and my oldest has been 96.
Oh, wow.
In my age range of things. And I like my 96-year-old, God love her. And she was just like, I didn't like sex back in the 50s. I sure as heck didn't like it then. And it was hilarious. You know, and she was busting my gut. And I'm like, okay. But like you said, you've seen it. Everybody goes through the process of grieving differently.
Right.
So
yeah.
You have to go in there very neutral.
Absolutely.
But I mean, it started with the kids because the abuse, because my first child abuse victim was somebody with 2 broken arms and 37 cigarette burns on his body. And locked in the basement for 4 days.
Wow.
And that was my first introduction to child abuse.
Wow.
So I've always been really working with those kids because I work in the PICU. We did a lot of abuse and head trauma.
Okay.
With abuse and things like that. So that's where my heart is. And that's the one reason I don't leave this program is because somebody needs to take care of the kids.
Yeah.
Like I say, somebody needs to speak for the people that can't speak for themselves.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
I know. I think it's a pretty powerful thing that we do. I mean, it's just like, you're going in and you're a complete stranger and somebody has just experienced this horrible trauma. And we very quickly build a relationship. And, no matter if you're male or female, building that, quickly building trust and, a relationship with the patient is, yeah, it's a pretty,
Yeah. It's hard at times with some of the adolescent are some of the harder ones to deal with. Our middle age and are the easiest ones. Our older generation, I have to consider myself an older generation now because I'm 60. So I consider myself an older generation, and they're very prim and proper. So
Right.
I can't tell you about that young man. I said, yes, you are. Or the one that came in fully makeup one night and she said, well, he hit me here, 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 here. I had these bruises I had to cover up. So you can't see me like that. I said, man, yes, I do.
Oh,
That's going to tell your story to
right.
get this person put in jail. She goes, really? So we had about a 30-minute conversation about just how the process and what the court would see when they see these bruises on your face where he punched you and kicked you. And yes, I know it's hard because believe me, I don't like taking those photos, and I really hate taking genital photos. And I tell them, I was like, I won't take them unless there is an injury, period. So you just learn how to talk to people, and I'm a people person anyway.
Yeah.
And I'll sit and, because sometimes you say, this is not your first, they'll say, this ain't my first rodeo. And I said, well, did you get help before? And they'll go like, nope.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I say, you want to talk about it? Nope. Or sometimes, yeah, I'll talk to you about it.
Yeah.
So, and if they do, it's an outlet because I've learned some of my older generation, they have told me, yeah, this happened when I was a kid, but I never told anybody. It kind of breaks you a little bit when you think about that.
It does. I know. I just see it like, especially with the teenagers, the young kids, I really see it as an opportunity to, let's have a discussion and, if you're open to it and,
Yeah.
because boy, it's a hard road, after
Yeah.
that.
Because my longest exam took almost 9 hours one time.
Yeah.
Because this person was beat head to toe.
Yeah.
And I'll be danged on if a week and a half later I didn't get a phone call from the cop saying, hey, guess what, Greg? I said, what? Well, she's in jail now. I said, what she's in jail for? Drunk with her boyfriend, the same one that just about killed her. And she fought the cops when they went to arrest him. She fought the cops. She got thrown back in jail. Back with the same guy. It takes 7 times. I think is it 7 times before you leave somebody? 7 to 9 times.
Yeah.
It's a scary thought out there.
It is scary. It's very scary out there. Yeah.
That's kind of my background on that part. That's how I got started. I mean, I won't give it up unless I absolutely have to. I would love to, like I say, sit here until you go here to this hospital, take care of that when you do that, and never, ever do another exam and see another body part. Because I will say after 23 years, I'm a little dark sense of humor.
Right, of course. Of course.
But after the fact, it's like, yeah, right. Because I believe everything till you tell me a lie.
Yeah.
Because then I'll ask the same question 5 different ways and get 5 different answers. I'm like, okay. Just shake my
I know. That's what we do. I did see on your LinkedIn that you talk about you'd like to create a freestanding aftercare facility for patients who have been sexually assaulted. I thought that was a really...
Yeah, that's what I wanted to do, and I worked with it for 7 years here, and they just will not give me the funding to do it.
Right.
Because around here, we don't have a lot, because the stigma of it. I've been raped. I don't want to go tell my doctor. I said, well, if you're doing the NPEDS, you need to do a follow-up at 7, 13, and 21 days, 28 days. And I will admit, I follow my patients. Did you get your follow-up? No. Why not? I didn't want to go back to the doctor.
Right.
And I tell them most of the time, there's no injury. You don't have to have another exam, but you need to go get your medications. You need to go get your lab work, because I said this medication is hard on the body. It's the same thing I would take if I got a dirty needle stick. And I tell them one day, I said, I had a nurse that was out for 42 days because of that medicine. And I said, the big 5, nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, rash, and headache. I said, you may get 1, you may get 5, you may get 0.
Yeah.
And there's other stuff in there taking those meds can do you too. It can kill you on some of them. But I said, it's your call, but very seldom will they do follow-ups. That's why I wanted the care center come back to me.
Yeah.
And that's the biggest thing I wish I would have went and got my APRN, that I could have followed them up. But
Mhm.
I went back, got my master's in education, and by that time frame, my third kid was here, and I'm like, I can't do anymore right now. I'm kind of done with school for right now.
Yeah.
But yeah, the aftercare clinic, and I had a site clicked up, and I was like, hey, just let them come back and just do their lab work and follow up. But no, so my victims, I would tell them, I will call you in a week to see what's going on. I always do the follow up, make sure, do you need anything else? I've actually, my strangulation victims, I usually have them come back in 3 days to retake the photos and check on them. My ERs are really good about letting them come back in. I said, hey, I need an examiner
Oh,
and rephotograph them. But that's the ones that really follows my strangulations, non-fatals.
yeah. Right.
So, but yeah, to me, that would be ideal because we have a lot in this area, unfortunately.
Really. Oh, yeah. Yeah. And there's so much that we don't ever see, we don't ever hear about. Yeah, for sure.
A lot of them will, people every once in a while find out, what do you do, Greg? And I was like, well, I tell them, they go like, oh, and a little bit later on, somebody will come talk to me.
Yeah.
I was like, well, did you ever have help? Nope. You want help? I'll hook you up with the Center for Women and Families. Nope.
Yeah.
Just want to talk to you. I go in high schools and I teach rape awareness for kids getting ready to go off to college.
Oh,
And that's really eye opening. My son was actually in one of my classes one time. He's like, oh goddamn. And it's talking to the kids about being aware going to college, because if you're going off to college, who's got your back?
right.
And it's the basic stuff: drinking, lights, letting people know where you're at, always having some cash in hand, phone in your hand, walk in lighted areas. Then I do case scenarios on different things. In Kentucky, it's considered a felony to go up and slap somebody on their butt and grab it without their permission.
Oh,
And it's a I don't know if it's felony or not, but it's a level, what's a level 6? So it's not heavy. But I walk into the high school and I watch this one guy just reach up and just smack this girl and grab her, and she said, stop it. And he was in class. Two classes later, I was like, I'm going to have fun with this one. I learned when I talk in those classes, I can pick out usually who's been assaulted. Because halfway through the class, I would tell everybody, put your head down. I kick the teacher out, number one.
Yeah.
Everybody put their heads down, close their eyes, and I ask, who in here knows somebody's been sexually assaulted? Who in here has a friend that's been sexually assaulted? Who in here has been sexually assaulted? Who's had help? Who needs help? I asked those 5 questions, and by that time frame, I pegged my people, and I said, okay, put your heads back up, and I continue on with class.
Mm-hmm.
And they know, and that's what I said, if anybody needs help, come find me. My card will be on the table. The teacher knows how to get a hold of me. And I've had a few students reach out to me, but I do that in almost every single one of the class. If you look at statistics, 1 in 3 women are raped or sexually assaulted in their lifetime. And there's a heck of a lot that goes on in the high schools.
Right.
So that could give me a thing to go in there. Now my daughter's in high school. She goes, Dad, don't come to my class. We'll see, honey. We'll see. That's another outlet that I can get to the adolescents and say, hey, be prepared.
Yeah.
It's probably going to unfortunately, it's probably going to happen to you or somebody you know.
Right. Yeah. No. Yeah. That's a whole different.
Horrible.
Yeah.
It's horrible. And being a dad of 3 kids too, and it's kind of like, I told my daughter's boyfriend, and I said, you know what? Hugged him around one day. It's like, you don't ever want to tee off a corner, because he knows how to dig very deep holes. He knows where the ovens are at, and he knows how hot to put them. So you might want to behave. And I walked away, and he's like, I'm not going to dig inside. My daughter said, he's serious. And I am.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. I said, that's my baby girl. Same thing to my boys. I've told the girlfriends the same thing. He's the boys' girlfriends. I don't play that.
Yeah.
So what else? Because I don't want you to run out of time.
Yeah. Just kind of wrapping up. What would you tell nurses out there that are interested in pursuing forensic nursing, males in general, or just, males, anyone in general?
The biggest saying is don't let people discourage you.
Yeah.
Because I had somebody say to me, all you want to do is see a vagina and touch it. And that's the day I let loose. I'm an old retired first sergeant, and I cut loose at that point in time when that was said to me. I let her have it.
Mm.
And it was an older lady, and it put me down for about a week or two. And I was so mad more than anything because I
Right.
already been a nurse for a year and a half. And I was like, this patient population, nobody speak for them.
Right.
So stand up, and you got to pick your battles. And if you want it, go for it. Find the best class around. Know your state license. Know your state instructions. Number one, what does your nursing board want you to do? And go do it and make a difference regardless. I will tell you, the first conference I went to, I knew nobody. I was sitting in the corner, and I don't know if you know Jamie Farrell or not through the IFN. She's one of the founding members with Virginia Lynch with the International
Okay.
Association
Right.
of Forensic Nurses. I was sitting over the corner reading through. She walks up and said, "Who are you?" I said, "Greg." She goes, "Who are you here with?" "By myself." She goes, "Come with me." I'm like, "Okay." I had no idea who she was, and I spent almost 4.5 days with her. Not totally with her, but we would talk in area. Then after right at the end, she goes, "You know who that is?" And I said, lady named Mrs. Jamie. She goes, "Jamie Farrell. She runs the Houston, Texas.
Oh.
Oh shoot, what hospital is that one down there? She runs but she's well known across the world by speaking. And after I got to know that, I've been to one of her pediatric classes and one of her adult classes. She actually came up to Fort Wayne and taught an adult class that I went to years ago. She taught part of it, and then I went to another peds class and learned about too.
Okay.
But finding a mentor, because I will honestly say my whole learning was OJT. There was nobody here to help me. I got the book Forensic Nursing by Virginia Lynch and Barbara Duvall. Those two, they've got two of them out. That was my Bible. It's highlighted so many places in that book. Both of them. That was because like I said, I had nobody to shoot things off from for years. And it was all learning the books. And I mean, this is our state paperwork we use for exams. It's a 2-pager. It's in our kits. But mine is a 14-pager.
Okay, yeah.
I came here. I said, this is nothing.
Right.
I've got 14 pages that I use now, and I usually only use about 9 of it, unless it's a strangulation, then I'll add the other 4 pages into it.
Mm-hmm.
But don't let people discourage you is the biggest thing, because I've had those words said to me, and I'm like, go away. I don't worry about you. And when people say that to me, and they said, well, you're a guy, and I said, would you rather have somebody who knows what they're doing,
right,
and make a chance of getting this person put in jail, or somebody just said, "Oh, swab here, so yeah, throw it in a box and go with it," and everything gets thrown out. They leave the box on the counter and they walk away with their chain of custody's gone. I said, I take pride in it. Don't like doing it actually, but it has to be done. And I said, that's what's got to me is I hate my job. I hate that it's needed.
Right.
And,
absolutely.
But it's here, and you're not going to do a thing about it. Right. So, but find a mentor. Get on the website. Start looking things up. Be careful of some of the websites, because not all of them are great. The schools, I would say, learn what your state wants first, and look at their licensure requirements. Then find a school, because around here, the only thing outside sane nursing is with the police department doing evidence collection. So there's really not a lot other than sane nursing around here. Now, as a coroner, death investigation is another whole world.
Right.
But for a sane nurse here, you're going to be stuck in the hospital, and it's usually not a full-time job. It's an add-on.
Right.
I'm lucky. I'm full-time. That's all I do. for that ARC. But start out small. Excuse me. Get your licensure. Get your voice known out there. Start talking to people. Talk with these doctors and say, hey, this is what I want to do. There's bound to be somebody in your area that's got some forensic knowledge. Like I say, the state of Indiana, you got to be 18 and live in the county to be a coroner. That's all the requirements there is. And I look like, really? And I've already submitted to the board twice and I get shot down. You need to make it somebody needs to have some medical experience. Nope. Because 90% of them are funeral directors. That's where they get their extra money at. So that's another whole story. But I mean, if you've got a passion for it, and I will agree to it, people say it's not for everybody.
Right. Absolutely.
It's not on NCIS. It's not CSI. You don't get results back in 24 hours. It may look like it because I've even had cops and judges say, well, Greg, were they raped? And I said, sir, that's not my job. That's your job. I can only say she has blunt force trauma injury compared to the story that she gave me or her history. I said, I am not at that point because they tried that very early on. I had some detectives try that. Well, Greg, was she raped? I said, that's not my job. That's your job.
Right.
My job is to do a forensic interview and collect forensic evidence for you all to follow up with.
Right.
So, I mean, the biggest thing is I've had some nurses and they try it and they don't like it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, and I've told them what bothers you. And they say, I just can't stand the stories because it brings their own stories back, or they just say it's too emotional.
Sure.
You have to be able to stop and walk away because I don't want to seem callous, but I'm sorry you were raped. I can't follow that, but I can follow forward here.
Right.
And people say, does it bother you? And I said, at times it does, especially when my kids were that age when I was seeing one of those patients.
Right. Yeah.
That's what bothered me at. But I had my health ministries was right across the way from me here. They're in another office when I first moved over here, and they had no idea what I did. And I told them, you really don't want to know. And I told her, and she about hold that thought, Greg. Went and got one of her partners. We need to help Greg. You don't want to go there because I'm beyond help. But I said, this is what I do for a living. And then they had no idea. A lot of people do not know what we do.
Right.
What's a SANE nurse? And it's not just a little cotton tip swab. It's about knowing how to use that swab.
Right.
And knowing how to articulate that story, because it's verbatim what they say, but it's what you put in your notes saying, hey, bop, 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 and sticking to the fact. I guess I'm a little weird. But I've been told by many people, Greg, people don't last that long doing this.
Yeah.
I've even Virginia Lynch said, Greg, guys don't last that long in this. I said, I know, Virginia, but I don't have nobody to pass the torch to.
Yeah.
If I walked away today, it wouldn't happen no more.
Oh.
And that's why I'm going back to my boss again this year and said, we got to do something.
Yeah.
We've got to get a team. We've got to get, even if it's a full on-call team.
Yeah.
But we've got to get a team because I know my children's hospital, I know I'm digressing a little bit, but my children's hospital, I had one of the nurses come to me 3 days ago and said, Greg, 4 days ago, and said, Greg, I need to talk to you. She's got put in charge of something and she goes, I need your help. I said, what do you need? And have you heard the Respond system? Probably not. It's brand new. They use it for traumas. It's to document traumas. Well, one of my cohorts over at Children's Hospital got it in his head, said we can do this for sexual assault. And this is year 2.5. He brought me in a year ago. He didn't bring me in at the beginning, but what we're going to do is everything is digital now. The photos will be straight into the records. We don't have to transfer because right now I have to take pictures and transfer them in. Everything will be signed digitally, so everything is submitted. The report can be viewed by somebody 500 miles away if you need a second opinion. If you had somebody there, they can remote into the response system and look at your photos and make sure you're asking the right questions. That hopefully goes live in about 3 weeks. 3 to 4 weeks. We get that, and that's going to cut down the paperwork issues because that's the biggest thing, and that's one of our biggest issues is paperwork. Is what happened to the paperwork?
Yeah.
A lot of people don't get it, and I'm like, because to me, if I lose a paper on a case of a 9-year-old or a 15-year-old, and that person gets off, and they get away with it, it breaks my heart. So that's why I say you got to cross your T's and dot your I's because you got to be ready for almost anything.
Right.
From the prostitute down to the little boy that was walking across the street to the playground.
Yeah.
Or to grandma.
Right.
And that can tear some people up. So
Sure.
I don't know about you, but I'd say I got story after story after story.
Exactly.
Oh man, my oldest, when she told me that shit, I didn't even like sex in the 50s. I'm like, oh, that's TMI, honey bunch. But it was hilarious. It was hilarious, but you'll come to, I know I have been out before and I've seen my patients.
Mhm.
And I always tell my patients, I said, I won't talk to you unless you want me to. You come to me, but otherwise I'm not going to say anything because I don't know who knows what.
Right.
And I've had people come up and hug me, and my wife just looks at me like, okay. And go on. That was one of my patients. And the little kids, because I worked in a pediatrician's office while I was becoming a nurse. And I have the kids come to me all the time, Mr. Greg, and hug on me and watch me. It's like, yeah, let's go. It's number 25. So you learn a lot. And if you can pass that on to somebody else and pass the torch, that's great. But getting started sometimes is half the battle.
Right. Yeah.
I don't know your background, your story, how you started it, but everybody's a little different on how they start.
Yeah. I actually, it's actually funny. I actually read an article in Self Magazine about sane nurses when I was in high school, and it always kind of stuck with me. And after I worked for a couple of years, I worked at a level 1 trauma center, and of course we had a big SANE program, and so I trained, and I've been doing it ever since.
Sweet.
As on call, just over the years, I've changed, cities, changed hospitals, but always just continued on working as a SANE nurse. So it's definitely a calling, and I know exactly what you're saying.
Yeah, it's definitely a calling.
Yeah.
I will say that, like, ooh, because what I did in the military to what I do now, I had some of my guys said, what in the hell got into you? Like, well, I had a life change. You did a 180, but you did a 360 plus a 180.
Right.
I was airborne infantry. I retired out of the military.
Wow.
Airborne infantry combat medic. So I'm like, yeah.
Wow.
But it can be life changing at times.
Yeah, I know a lot of the stories. Yeah, they stick with you. It's just, you do have to walk away, but it's just stick with you. Well, Greg, thanks so much for being here and sharing all your stories and experiences. It's been fun chatting with you today.